In a small Ohio town, a struggling mechanic named Jake works tirelessly in his cluttered garage. One rainy day, a young girl named Emily, paralyzed since childhood, arrives with a broken wheelchair. Little does Jake know, this simple repair will change both their lives forever. Like, share, and subscribe, and tell us where you're watching from. Now, let's get started. Jake wiped the sweat off his forehead, staring at the cluttered garage around him. Tools were scattered across the floor, engine parts stacked haphazardly, and the faint smell of grease clung to the air. At 28, he had worked in this small Ohio town all his life, dreaming of owning a proper auto repair shop. But life had other plans. Bills piled up, machinery broke down, and clients were rare. Still, he persisted, driven by stubborn pride and an unwavering belief that one day his efforts would pay off. Today, though, he felt especially tired and frustrated. The rain outside hammered against the metal roof as a small car pulled into the driveway. Jake looked up, curiosity piqued. A young girl was being helped out by her mother. She was in a wheelchair, pale-faced and fragile-looking, her eyes scanning the garage with a mixture of fear and hope. At 19, Emily had been paralyzed from the waist down after a tragic accident years earlier. Her wheelchair had broken just hours ago, leaving her stranded and helpless, a situation that made her mother panic. Jake hurried to open the garage door, offering them a warm smile. "Come in, don't worry, I'll take a look at it," he said, wiping his greasy hands on a rag. Emily's mother, a well-dressed woman with an air of wealth, looked hesitant. "Are you sure you can fix this? It's very important," she asked, her voice tight with worry. Jake nodded confidently. "I've seen worse. Ma'am, we'll get her moving again, I promise." Emily gave him a small, hesitant smile, a mix of gratitude and skepticism. He crouched beside the wheelchair, examining the broken frame and jammed wheels. Jake muttered to himself as he worked, calculating angles, checking bolts, and testing every moving part. Every so often he glanced at Emily, who watched him silently, her gaze filled with hope and fear. Jake could feel the weight of responsibility on his shoulders. This wasn't just any repair job, it was someone's freedom, independence, and confidence at stake. He rolled up his sleeves and dived into the work, improvising with scraps and spare parts, determined to make the impossible possible. Hours passed as the rain slowed to a drizzle outside. Jake's hands were black with grease, cuts forming on his palms, but he didn't stop. Sparks flew from the metal as he hammered, welded, and adjusted parts. Emily's mother paced nearby, watching nervously, occasionally offering Jake a drink or a towel. He waved her off politely. "I've got this," he said, his voice steady but tired. Emily's eyes widened as she saw the transformation begin. The wheelchair, once broken and useless, slowly regained form, sturdiness, and strength under Jake's skillful hands. By late afternoon, Jake stepped back, wiping his brow, exhausted but satisfied. The wheelchair looked almost new, its frame reinforced, wheels spinning smoothly, and mechanisms working flawlessly. Emily cautiously approached, her hands gripping the handles. She moved a few inches forward, then another, her face lighting up with a genuine, uncontainable smile. Tears welled up in her eyes. Jake watched, his own emotions swelling as he realized what he had done. This wasn't just a repaired wheelchair. It was a lifeline, a symbol of independence restored, and a moment that would forever stay in both their memories. Emily's mother approached, tears streaming down her face, overwhelmed with gratitude. "I don't know how to thank you," she said, her voice trembling. Jake shook his head, smiling humbly. "Just seeing her smile is enough. That's payment enough for me." Emily hugged him tightly, whispering, "Thank you. I've missed this." The scene felt almost surreal, the small garage filled with warmth, hope, and the quiet hum of something extraordinary having happened. Jake realized that despite his struggles and failures, moments like this made everything worthwhile. Word of the miracle mechanic spread quickly through the small town. Neighbors, friends, and even local news outlets came to hear the story, amazed at how a struggling young mechanic could perform such a feat. Jake remained modest, insisting it wasn't magic, just effort, determination, and care. Emily's daily life began to change, her confidence growing, and her independence returning piece by piece. Jake, for the first time in years, felt a glimmer of purpose beyond money and survival, a purpose rooted in human connection and the power to make a real difference. As the sun set over the Ohio horizon, Jake sat back on a worn stool, exhausted but fulfilled. He looked at the wheelchair now parked neatly in the corner, a symbol of triumph over struggle. Emily and her mother left the garage that evening, but their impact lingered. Jake realized that even in the smallest towns, even in the hardest circumstances, courage, skill, and kindness could ripple outward, changing lives in ways he had never imagined. And for Jake, the journey of hope and resilience had only just begun. The next morning, Jake arrived at the garage early, expecting a quiet day. To his surprise, Emily was already there, waiting eagerly. Her wheelchair, now repaired and stronger than ever, gleamed in the sunlight streaming through the garage doors. She looked different somehow, more confident, almost radiant. Jake's heart lifted seeing her smile. "Morning, Jake," she said brightly. Her voice filled with excitement. He nodded, trying to hide his own emotional reaction. "Morning, Emily. Ready to take her for a spin?" She nodded vigorously, and he guided her outside to test the wheelchair on the smooth pavement. Emily's first movements were tentative but determined. She pushed the wheels slowly, feeling the smooth glide and perfect balance. Jake watched, a mix of pride and amazement swelling in his chest. "I can move. I actually can move," she whispered, her eyes wide with disbelief. Her laughter, light and musical, filled the garage, breaking the quiet tension that had lingered since her arrival the day before. Jake smiled warmly. It wasn't just a wheelchair that moved today. It was hope, freedom, and independence. He had witnessed something extraordinary. A young woman reclaiming a piece of her life she thought lost forever. Her mother stood nearby, observing the scene with a mix of relief and astonishment. She had been skeptical at first, doubting whether a small-town mechanic could achieve what specialists had failed to do for years. But now, seeing Emily roll smoothly and confidently, tears formed in her eyes. "I don't know how to—" "Thank you," she said, voice trembling. Jake shrugged modestly. "No need, Mom. Just seeing her smile is enough." Emily turned to her mother, beaming. "I feel normal," she whispered softly. For a moment, the bustling garage felt sacred, as though time itself had paused to honor this triumph over adversity. Word spread quickly through the small town about Jake's miraculous repair. Friends, neighbors, and even a local news reporter came to witness the wheelchair in action. Cameras clicked, questions were asked, but Jake remained humble, focused solely on Emily's joy. He watched as she confidently navigated the driveway, laughing and chatting with visitors who marveled at her independence. The attention was flattering but unfamiliar. Jake wasn't interested in fame. He was driven by the sense of purpose he hadn't felt in years. Each push of the wheelchair's wheels reminded him that his skills had a deeper meaning than he had ever realized. As the day continued, Jake and Emily experimented with small adjustments to make the wheelchair even more comfortable and responsive. He fine-tuned the brakes, reinforced the frame slightly, and adjusted the seating for optimal posture. Emily eagerly offered suggestions, and together they laughed over small mishaps. "Be careful," Jake chuckled as she tilted too far forward in excitement. "I'm fine," she replied, giggling. Their teamwork created a bond neither had anticipated. For Emily, this wasn't just about mobility. It was about trust, friendship, and feeling seen. For Jake, it was about making a tangible difference, proving that dedication and care could change lives profoundly. By evening, Emily's mother approached Jake privately, her eyes soft with gratitude. "Jake, I want to help you. You deserve more than this little garage," she said, gesturing toward his small, dimly lit workspace. Jake shook his head firmly, smiling gently. "It's not about the money. Ma'am, seeing Emily happy, confident, and moving again, that's enough." She pressed a card into his hand nonetheless, insisting he reach out if he ever needed support. Jake thanked her, unsure if he would take her up on it. What mattered now was Emily's newfound freedom and the realization that his work had purpose far beyond what he ever imagined. Emily's life began to shift in subtle ways. She returned to school with renewed confidence, able to move independently through hallways she once dreaded. Her friends noticed the change, and even strangers offered compliments on her newfound mobility. Jake's repair wasn't just mechanical, it had sparked a transformation in Emily's spirit. Her laughter grew more frequent, and her optimism returned. He received occasional updates from her mother, detailing her progress. Each message brought Jake quiet satisfaction. He knew he had helped more than a body. He had helped restore a life, and that realization filled him with pride, unlike anything money or recognition could offer. Local media soon featured Jake's story, dubbing him the miracle mechanic of Ohio. Offers for interviews, collaborations, and even sponsorships came pouring in. Jake remained humble, gently redirecting attention to Emily's perseverance and courage. He knew the spotlight wasn't his. It belonged to the young woman who had dared to hope and trust him. Yet even with the sudden attention, Jake's priorities didn't shift. He continued working in his small garage, repairing cars, wheelchairs, and anything in need. The community admired him not for fame or wealth, but for the heart he poured into every task, transforming lives quietly, persistently, and profoundly. By nightfall, Jake sat alone in the garage, reflecting on the whirlwind of the past. Weak, Emily had regained her independence. The town had celebrated her triumph, and his own life had subtly changed. He realized the significance of what he had accomplished. Not just the repaired wheelchair, but the hope he had reignited in someone who had once felt trapped. The garage, once a place of struggle and fatigue, now felt alive with possibility. Jake smiled, knowing this was only the beginning of a journey filled with purpose, connection, and the extraordinary. Moments that arise when ordinary people do extraordinary things. Jake woke early that morning, a mixture of curiosity and nervous excitement in his chest. He had received an unusual call the night before from Emily's mother, asking him to meet her at the city airport. Confused but intrigued, he drove the familiar route, his hands gripping the steering wheel tightly. The Ohio countryside blurred past as he thought about the past week, the miraculous wheelchair repair, Emily's regained independence, and the way his life had subtly shifted. He had never been to an airport like this, let alone a private one, and the anticipation made his heart pound. As he approached the private jet parked on the tarmac, his breath caught. The sleek, gleaming aircraft reflected the morning sun, its engines humming softly in anticipation. Emily's mother was already waiting, her posture regal but warm. "Jake, thank you for coming," she said, her tone both commanding and gentle. He nodded, unsure what to say. And then Jake saw Emily rolling down the stairs in her wheelchair, smiling wider than he had ever seen. The moment felt surreal, almost cinematic, as if the universe had paused to let him witness something extraordinary. Emily's mother approached him, her eyes glistening with tears. "Jake, you've changed her life," she said softly. He shook his head, humbled. "I just did what I could. She did the rest," he replied. Emily wheeled closer, her excitement barely contained. "I never thought I'd feel like this again," she said, her voice trembling with emotion. Jake could barely speak, overwhelmed by the joy radiating from her. For him, this wasn't just gratitude, it was affirmation of purpose. Every struggle, every sleepless night in the garage had led to this moment, a moment where his skills and heart intersected to create real change. The private jet's interior was immaculate, all cream leather and polished wood, a stark contrast to the humble garage Jake called home. Emily's mother gestured for him to come aboard. "We want you to come with us, Jake. You were part of this miracle," she said. Jake hesitated, humbled and unsure if he deserved such treatment. Emily reached out, holding his hand briefly. "It wouldn't be the same without you," she whispered. His heart swelled. Jake realized that this wasn't about luxury or wealth. It was about recognition for the humanity he had shown, the life he had helped restore. Once aboard, Emily settled into her seat, her wheelchair secured carefully. Jake and her mother watched as she began to relax, her eyes wide with wonder at the cabin. Around her, he marveled at the surreal contrast to the dusty, cluttered garage, where they had spent hours together just a week ago. Seeing her so happy, so independent, made everything he had endured suddenly feel meaningful. The engines roared to life, and as the plane taxied down the runway, Jake felt a profound sense of awe. Emily's journey was beginning, and he had played a pivotal role in setting her free. As the plane lifted into the air, the Ohio landscape shrinking below them, Emily looked out the window, her face lit with excitement and hope. "I can't believe this is happening," she said softly. Jake smiled, watching her closely. "You deserve it," he replied, his voice filled with sincerity. Her mother nodded in agreement, a tear escaping down her cheek. The moment was intimate yet monumental, the kind of memory that etched itself into the soul. Jake realized that miracles could happen in the most unexpected places. A small garage, a struggling mechanic, and a girl who refused to give up. The flight was smooth, and Emily chatted non-stop about her plans for the prestigious rehabilitation program awaiting her. Jake listened, fascinated by her determination, proud of her courage. For him, this was the pinnacle of all his efforts, the knowledge that he had given someone a second chance at life, literally and figuratively. Emily's mother occasionally added her own words of thanks, praising his skill, patience, and heart. Jake remained humble, insisting that Emily had done all the hard work herself. Yet deep down, he knew that without his intervention, this moment would never have existed. As the jet approached its destination, Jake could see Emily's excitement intensify. She wheeled closer to him, her face radiant. "I'll never forget what you did for me," she said, gripping his hand tightly. "You gave me my life back." Jake's throat tightened. He realized that this was more than a single act of kindness. It was a ripple effect, changing lives in ways that money or fame could never replicate. He had learned that true impact came from dedication, heart, and the courage to act when others might hesitate. Emily's words would stay with him forever. When the plane finally touched down, Jake watched Emily roll toward the entrance. With confidence and pride, her mother looked back at him, her eyes soft and grateful. "You'll always be part of her story," she said. Jake smiled, overwhelmed by the experience. He realized that his small-town life had been transformed forever, not by wealth or recognition, but by the joy of seeing someone soar beyond limitations he had helped remove. As Emily disappeared into her new adventure, Jake stood on the tarmac, the wind in his hair, heart full, knowing he had truly witnessed and contributed to something miraculous.